Have you ever lost your way? Have you ever stopped believing? Have you ever had those moments when you know that there's more to life? You know that there's like unexplainable phenomenon have just happened. And so you know there's more. There's more to experience than the mundane. And sometimes even though like we know all of this, we get trapped in this feelings of maybe it's not true. Maybe it's not real. Maybe there is nothing more out there. I'm actually here in Sedona, so I'm at one of the vortexes, and I don't know if you can hear the flute music that's playing. I'll try and capture it. It's not this peak right here, but around the corner there is another one. I took some pictures. He's playing the flute right now, so it's very, very beautiful, enchanting music. And what's interesting is this morning, I actually went to the airport vortex to be able to see the sunrise. And I've been to Sedona multiple times, and I've never seen the sunrise from the airport vortex. So I went there this morning to see it, and there's only 8 parking spaces. So it's sometimes can be difficult to get into there. And what's interesting is there's only been one time that I haven't found a parking space there. So there's different energetic things that you can do to help you get parking spaces. And there's only one time where it didn't work. And at that time, I happened to be dating somebody who sort of didn't really like Sedona. Now, interestingly, this person actually lives in the Phoenix area and goes sort of up to the Flagstaff area, up into where it's cooler during the summer and stuff. So has a cabin up in the woods. And this person is actually very, I wouldn't necessarily say psychic, and very, very in touch with energy. This person could be a medium if he so chose. And he's kind of in almost denial of that whole part of himself, almost not wanting to believe it. And so Sedona is very woo-woo, it's too woo-woo for him. And I was visiting him, and I'm like, hey, I really want to go to Sedona. And it's not that he doesn't like it. It's just that, like I said, he kind of, I guess, has judgment against people who are too far out there in the woo-woo. And the only time I haven't been able to get a parking space at the Vortex Airport was actually when I was with him. And so I'm like, this is interesting, right? This is interesting how the energy works, how when you have blocks, when you have maybe limiting beliefs or negative emotions around maybe who you're supposed to be or what you're meant to do, sometimes what can happen is we start to doubt. Even sometimes when we're super high on our path and we're going strong, we're like, yes, I'm doing all of the things. Sometimes that doubt can kind of creep in. So I've had different students come up to me and ask, and I've had just different experiences throughout life, even me myself. There have even been times where I'm like, is this real? Is this whole energy thing? Is this whole manifestation thing? Is this the whole esoteric type stuff? Is it real? And sometimes those little sprinkles of doubts come in. You're Googling something, and here comes Wikipedia saying it's all fake and there's no proof and there's this and there's that. And so then you have to scroll to page 2 or 3 on Google, but who does that, right? But then you have to dig deeper, and then you find, oh, here's all of these different esoteric things that are happening. For example, the CIA ended up studying Robert Monroe and studying how you can actually, in your dream time, how you can actually go to different places, how you can have lucid dreams. And even the CIA was finding results with that. So, and I think they made a spoof movie. I forget what it's called, but they even made a spoof movie about it, which is really interesting because it's it never happened, right? But now it's coming out oh yes, the gateway techniques are not only real, they've been studied by governments, they've been studied by multiple people who have been able to, say for example, somebody disappears, you have a disappearance and maybe a kidnapping or something, And the psychics have been able to go and have an out-of-body experience and then find where the person is and have, tell the people to go rescue them or whatever needs to happen. So about the airport vortex, like I said, I was going this morning to be able to film the sunrise. Now, I completely forgot about parking. It wasn't even on my mind. And so I didn't do the thing where, I can find a magical parking space. And so I got there and there was no parking spaces. And I was like, uh-oh, I totally forgot. And so I drove up the hill a little ways, and there's there's a big parking lot up the hill, and there's like an overlook and stuff like that. Well, I've never really been to that part of it. And this was before the sun technically came up. It was light, but you couldn't see the sun or anything. And so I was like, oh, wow, how beautiful. So there was, let me see if I can just move the camera and you can kind of get a good idea. So you're seeing all of this over here, how there's all of these, just, I don't know what they're called, buttes or something like that. They're not quite mountains, but they're not quite hills. I'm sure there's a geography lesson I need to learn here. But I was looking out at all of this, not this right here, but it's a similar type of view. And there were these hot air balloons and off in the distance. Now what was happening is the sun was shining across. So the sun was behind me and it hadn't quite risen yet because it was behind these butte things. And so the sun's back here, but because of the way it's shining over here, which is what I was looking at, it was creating all of these colors all over the butte things. And it was absolutely gorgeous. And I had never seen that before. Or at least, from that spot. And there were these hot air balloons that were coming up. And I was like, oh, wow, how beautiful. And so if I had gotten my goal of getting to the airport vortex, and parking right when I wanted to, I would have missed all of that. So I sat there and I just sat there in gratitude for a little bit and realized sometimes you have a goal and sometimes it doesn't happen the way you want it to. And so then you start to doubt. Then you start to think, okay, maybe this stuff doesn't work. Maybe this stuff isn't real. Well, what do I do about that? If I'm thinking that it's not real, well, then your manifestations definitely aren't going to happen. Then you're definitely not going to get the things that you're trying to bring into your life. So instead, I thought, okay, well, there has to be a reason that this happened like this. And when I was watching the sun, the reflection, it's not really a reflection, but it kind of is, because the sun was back here, but hadn't risen yet. And the light was hitting the butte things, and that light was kind of reflecting off of them and shining back. And it was absolutely beautiful. I tried to film it. I don't know if the film caught it the way you see it, with your eyes. Sometimes film does and sometimes it doesn't. We'll see. I haven't watched the video yet, so we'll see. Here's the thing though. I got through watching that and I was like, I just got this hit. I interrupt this episode to share some exciting news with you all. So I have created a masculine and feminine therapy assessment. So if you are wondering, am I more in my masculine? Am I more in my feminine? Am I more in the high energy vibration of masculine or feminine? Or am I more in the lower energy of the masculine or feminine? Or maybe am I more neutral? You can take the assessment. It's absolutely free in the links below. And after taking the assessment, you'll know, what do I need to work more on? What am I succeeding with? Where am I at on the spectrum so that I can be a better person for myself, my partner, my team members, maybe my kids, my loved ones? It's absolutely free. I can't wait for you to go take it at the end of this episode. And of course, you are more than welcome to share it with everyone you know. So take it yourself, share it with your loved ones, post it everywhere, and let's really make a difference in the world. Let's really have everybody be able to share and come together and live at a higher vibration. Let's raise the vibration of the planet. Together, we absolutely 100% can. Like I got this like message of, hey, you should go back to the airport vortex. I'm like, okay, cool. So I got back in my car and I drove like back down the hill and there was a parking space. I'm like, okay. So I pulled into the parking space and I walked up the trail to get to the top to where the mesa is. And right as I was like cresting the top of the trail, the sun was just peeking over the butte. And sometimes we have these plans, and sometimes what ends up happening surprises us even more than we could have ever imagined. So in those moments of doubt, in those moments of, is this real? In those moments of, why aren't things working out for me? Check your beliefs, check your thoughts, check your emotions, check in with yourself, and see what's going on. See if there's anything that you need to maybe release, maybe need to let go of. And sometimes just go with the flow. So I do a lot of work with masculine and feminine energy therapy. And sometimes even women, or even those who are trying to be in the feminine energy, we tend to be in the masculine so much because life kind of requires us to. If we're in school, like college, stuff like that, it's like study. It's very masculine type energy. If we're at work, especially in like higher positions, it's very masculine energy. Like you have to be more in the masculine. And sometimes when we come home, or sometimes when we're not having to be in that energy, we have to remind ourselves. We have to remind ourselves to go into the feminine and go with the flow. And even if you're a male or if you're in that masculine energy naturally, you too, sometimes it's okay to go into the feminine. It's okay to just let go and go with the flow, because that's more feminine energy. So if you're having those doubts, if what you're doing didn't quite work out for whatever reason, or if something happens in a different way, or you experience something that's like crushing, just remember that there's a reason why it's happening. There's something either unexpected, like a huge surprise you're about to get that you could have never planned it that way, or there's some sort of lesson you're needing to learn. Learn the lesson and your life will 180 back to the point where you're wanting it to be. And sometimes it's not only 180s, but it's 180s, and then it's like it takes you to the next level and you just absolutely shine. Your life is like glowing. So again, whenever those doubts kind of creep in, or whenever you're thinking, that's just too woo-woo, that's just too far out there, maybe try sticking with it. Maybe try experimenting. See what happens. I'm pretty sure you'll be glad you did. And as always, please remember to choose love in all that you do. Mahalo.